Welcome to Motherhood, Aligned and Assigned, where we help guide mothers from symptoms to solutions.
We're Dr. Serena Coffman and Dr. Veronica Schiltz, nervous system specialists helping families discover the missing link in their wellness journey.
Join us as we translate complex health challenges into simple, actionable solutions for you and your children.
Because your family deserves to thrive,
not just survive.
Welcome back, parents. Today we're going to chat about the time that it can take for your nervous system to heal. All right, so if you're listening, it's quite possible that you have spent thousands of dollars on therapy. You've changed your child's entire diet. You've tried supplements, breathing exercise, sensory tools, all of the options and the experts. And yet here you are, watching the same struggles repeat themselves. The meltdowns and the anxiety and the focus issues and the sleep problems. And what I often see, and I saw this in my own daughter, is that all of these therapies helped for a little bit and then you plateaued and they stopped working. But then you kept spending money on them, right? Because you're like, well, they were working at some point. And you're probably exhausted from trying so hard with so little to show for it. And your wallet is probably also exhausted, right? And so let's just state it clearly from the start. You're not doing anything wrong, but maybe what we're doing is we're doing things out of order.
Yeah, so I actually just did a presentation about this in person, and I was super proud of it. So I'm actually going to talk about, because I literally had a whole section about this next topic that we're going to talk about. So I called it the rebuilding versus the repairing. Mm-hmm. So a lot of experts really, really get rebuilding right? The rebuilding is the repetition, it's strengthening, it's coordination, it's integrating, it's all those things that we use to rebuild things, right? We want to build better pathways and strengthen them and all that stuff. The problem is that we start to rebuild on a foundation that isn't properly able to handle that kind of structure, right? So that's where that plateau comes from, because we had this foundation that was unstable or, cracked, if you will. And then you started to add exercise on top, and then you started to add supplements, and then you started to build this tower on top of a shaky foundation. It started to hold it up for a second, and then it collapsed, and that's where that plateau comes from. So you either have that regression or you have that plateau, because there's only so much that a shaky foundation can hold on to before it starts to create other deeper rooted problems, right? So I think that is the important thing to note here, is that it's not that rebuilding is a bad thing. We need other providers who work on rebuilding, because we don't do that in the office. We're not working on rebuilding anything. We're working on repairing and restoring so that you can go off and rebuild elsewhere. And when you do rebuild the next time, you're going to have better results. So just keep that in mind. Like the PT, if you're someone who is leaving physical therapy or occupational therapy and you have to pause to do our care, maybe you won't need it anymore. But if you do need that support, I'm having this with a patient. She's like, we already tried PT. I'm getting a little bit nervous. And I'm like, yes, but you're going to have completely different results because you now are rebuilding on top of foundation that can actually hold it all, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times we're seeing this happen where there's a plateau and some other therapies aren't working because there's a deep-rooted pattern of stress disrupting the nervous system, which is what Dr. Veronica is saying is the foundation, right? And this comes from what we call the perfect storm, right? So when a child or even an adult goes through what we call the perfect storm, which is like prenatal stress, birth trauma, early illness, antibiotics, environmental toxins that build, the nervous system get locked into this pattern of dysfunction that is incredibly deep because it happened so early in life, right? And these patterns don't live on the surface. We don't see them, like we can cover them up with therapies in a sense. Actually, I have a perfect example of this. So I have a mom who is a incredible PT, and her son was having seizures. And in a lot of seizure cases, we expect there to be a lot of like muscular imbalance. So when they lay on the table, we're looking for like patterns of distortion and all those kinds of things. He laid on the table and looked perfectly symmetrical. Like my eyes saw nothing, like nowhere to start. I was like, what is happening? I was like, wait a minute, Mom, how much have you worked on him? She's like, a ton, his whole life, right? So she was able to cover up because his brain had so much dysfunction that was expressing in seizures usually the body and the muscular system, which builds on top of the nervous system, will also express that and show there'll be like clumsiness and muscle imbalance and all these things. But he's like superstar in sports, and his mom has been able to work with a lot of those patterns and unwind them. But she said this, she's like, oh, I covered up the neuromuscular imbalance, but the nervous system imbalance is still there, right? Like the PT didn't make the brain's cause of that muscular imbalance go away. That's like a perfect example, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I say, like these patterns don't live on the surface, right? We can cover them up on the surface if we find the right therapy to cover it up. But it's a deeper nervous system, brain-based rooted problem foundation that we're trying to lay to create the really strong walls and the roof that aren't going to cave in when stress comes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really interesting because you can do all the rebuilding, the integrating, just like that mom. You can do all those exercises and correcting of like the posture and the muscles and the tissues and all that, but the body is so much more intelligent than that to just be covered up, right? It's going to send different signals, different symptoms, different ways to communicate until you finally listen to it, right? That's all symptoms are, is the body being like, listen to me.
Yeah, it was like, I was trying to wave a red flag and you masked it. So now I'm going to go find another red flag to wave. Yeah. Because you're not listening and solving the problem that needed to be solved.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So when we are adding all of these therapies and not fixing the foundation, what it can feel like is that you're trying to push a car that's run out of gas to the gas station with your parking brake on, right? And so, because one, your body might just be overwhelmed with all this extra input, like the PT and other therapies and the supplements, right? That's a lot of input that your body needs to process that it doesn't probably have the resources to even process. So it's loud. But subluxation can create this interference with the nervous system that is like keeping our body in fight or flight, which is just like this big parking brake put on.
When you were talking about that, I just think about like, could you imagine, let's say you have this car that's not driving and you don't know why. And so you hit the gas and you hit it again and you keep hitting it, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing's working. And then you're like, okay, well, that's not working. So maybe I should check the oil. And then you're like, well, okay, that didn't work. So maybe I should check the engine. And it's like all of these things, you can get all this work done on this car, but until you release the brake, you're not going to go anywhere, right? Because that is what's stopping everything. So that's why I'm like, no, Dr. Serena, that was a perfect example because it's like you can get all this work done to this car, but if you don't release the brake, you're not going to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's not that the other stuff isn't important. You do need those oil changes eventually, and you need all that. But again, you usually only need that when you've been driving for a certain amount of time, right? To help you drive even better. Yeah. So it just goes to show that the order in which you take care of things is so important. And getting that brake off, that what is that? Emergency brake? What is that thing?
The parking brake?
Yeah, parking brake. Turning that, it's like a button. Clearly, I'm not a car gal, but taking the parking brake off is the only thing that's going to get you to go. And then at that point, you can see what you need to go faster or to go longer or, to put on sports mode or whatever. You know what I mean?
And oftentimes, what a lot of parents need permission to hear is that it takes time to start going faster. So it doesn't take, once you start rolling, right? I use this analogy at every report of findings to tell people like this is going to be it's like exponential curve, most likely. It's not linear. Healing isn't linear. It's going to take us a lot of effort to start pushing your car that's run out of gas to the gas station, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of effort at first, and we don't necessarily need more therapies. Like every single person asks me, like, what can I be doing at home? It's like nothing. Try nothing for a minute and just breathe. Let your nervous system do the work because you were designed to adapt and heal, and we're just removing what's in the way, right? So at first we're going to put in a lot of effort. There's going to be higher frequency in your care. And then as you start rolling and gaining momentum to get to the gas station to fill up with gas, right? Or get the oil change or whatever, it's like we're going to have to put less effort into your nervous system, and you're going to be gaining more energy, more speed, and we're keeping those adjustments so that we can organize the energy, right? We can steer the car in the direction we need to go for healing, right? But it takes time. We're in a instant gratification world. And we still don't have, like, healing is just not going to be an instant gratification, right? What we can give you is like soft signs, like, hey, look at these wins and these wins and these wins. Like, you're sleeping longer, digestion is coming online, you're less clumsy, and like then the big stuff is going to start happening, right? But
but I also like to think of it like, usually, yes, time, but really we're not actually less than a year. Like, I have some people who come into my office who've been struggling for decades, and the things that we can get done in 3 months, 3 to 9 months. Like, yes, it takes time, but pull back a little bit, because I actually don't think it takes that long. Yeah. Like, it's crazy what we can get done in 6 months. So, like, to you, that 6 months might sound like a long time, but, like, okay, so let's say you are someone who's, 45 years old, 30 years old, and you've been struggling since you were born. And I can help you in 6 months feel 100 times better. And even if you want to take that analogy to a child, sometimes, yes, we do see infants for, 6 to 9 months. Intensively, right? We're talking about care plan here, not necessarily like the wellness portion, but 6 months to establish the rest of your life. Yes, I love that we talk about healing takes time, because you're right. It's not just like a pill you're going to take and you're going to feel better tomorrow, although you will feel better tomorrow, like in the smallest way, but you will, right? But think about it in the grand scheme of things. Invest in your health for the next 3 to 9 months, depending on what your care plan says, and you will feel a world of difference. And so, yes, time, but also in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing compared to the return you get back on investing in your care for that period of time.
Yeah, and then the return on investment in the other therapies you might need after that to integrate this new nervous system health, right? Because then we might need to integrate that neuromuscular piece with PT. And maybe we need to do some touch-up for supplementation if you have like some big stuff going on, right? But you're going to need so much less of that, and it's going to be so much more efficient and effective once you have a foundation that's really strong, laid, and you're like ready to roll, right? You're going to be like at the gas station, filled up with gas, realize that you need to put your parking brake down, and like new motor oil.
Especially like Lightning McQueen when he stops and get his like gas tank, and then you just go
pit stop.
Pit stop. Me with the lingo.
Yeah, my dad was a race car driver, so
so I'm like, I don't even know what I'm talking about.
No, get with the picture. Anyways, short and sweet. That's what we're talking about. But I think I talk about it almost every day in my office. Of people want to do more, and they come in and they don't have time for chiropractic care because they're doing all these other therapies. So like, well, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm not trying to say that like my therapy is better. What I'm saying is I know this therapy can lay a really strong foundation. So do you have it in you to pause those things for now so we can lay a really strong foundation, and when we return to them, it's more efficient and saves you money and time, right? That's what I would love to say. It's tough to tell you that. It's tough to tell my patients that.
Because I know, like, it's not that we're trying to take over what your other experts are saying at all.
No, and it's not that I'm like Midwest humble, right? I'm like, oh, I'm sure they're so good at what they're doing.
Right.
And I don't want another provider telling my patient to not receive chiropractic care, right? I don't want to step out of my forte the same way. So it's just information. Like, here's the information. Here's when I know that your nervous system, based on these scans and what you're telling me, is quite dysregulated. Yeah. And this is a modality that can really help with that. And these modalities are next on how this hierarchy of healing. Yeah. So can we please do this one first?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, not even kidding me, please, but like, you are not benefiting from what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
You're not getting your money. Yeah. You're not getting your money's worth. You're not getting your healing's worth. Right. So it doesn't even have anything to do with us. Right. Like, it is a kind of nerve-wracking, but it's really about you and getting the best return on investment on all things: time, money, energy, all the things.
But I have parents, like, because a lot of these therapies for kids are done while they're in school. I have parents who don't actually know how their child is progressing in therapies. Like, I've asked them, and they're like, I don't know. I'm like, how's PT going? I don't know. How's OT going? I don't know. Let me say this. If you don't see the results of a therapy, you're probably plateaued.
You should know. You should know.
Like, you should know. It's like, wow, last week you couldn't do that, and this week you can do this little thing different, right? Last week you were tripping all over yourself, And like now, well, let's give it a few weeks, right? Like you should be noticing changes in your child with therapies.
Mm-hmm. So there you have it.
All
right. Well, thank you guys for listening. We're going to go ahead and pray you out and see you on the next one. So, dear Lord, thank you so much for just the wisdom you've given us and the patience you have given us to wait for these breakthroughs to happen and to humbly come before, our patients and let them know that we have this wisdom and we have this skill and we are using these things to help them on their journey, to help them go as fast as they physically can and to step into their God-given calling, into their God-given path. We don't want any parking brakes stopping people from getting to where we ultimately know they've been designed to go. And so thank you for just using us as vessels to help people get to the other side. We love you, we honor and praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you for joining us on Motherhood, Aligned and Assigned.
We hope today's episode helped you connect the dots in your family's health journey.
Remember, this is where nervous system health meets motherhood wisdom.
Until next time, we're Dr. Veronica Schiltz
and Dr. Serena Coffman, supporting you as you nurture your family's well-being.
Because when you're aligned, everyone thrives.